welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to go through my whole book of the month collection. So this is my whole collection behind me of all the book of the month books that I've kept, and I have a video like this on my channel that I did almost exactly a year ago. I will link it up in the cards and down below, but I love book of the month. I am not sponsored. This video is not sponsored at all. I am just a regular person who pays for the service and enjoys it. I've been a member of book of the month since 2016, which is crazy. But if you don't know what book of the month is, it's a monthly book subscription service. They give you about 5 or so options every month to pick from, and they deliver it to your door really quickly, might I add. And they include bookmarks, and if you are part of their BFF program after getting so many boxes and reading them, then you get some extra perks as well. They also now have audiobooks, and they ship to Canada now. So I know that a lot of people have a lot of opinions about book of the month, especially about like the little book of the month logo on the side and the front. I personally don't mind it because I like to keep them all together, but I know that there's a lot of opinions about it. So this is all of the books that I've kept. Obviously I've read way more than this, but I am just gonna go through my favorites. All the books on this shelf that I have kept from book of the month, I kept because they were either 4 or 5-star books. So all favorites and all definitely ones that I recommend, but we're just gonna go through them real quick. I might talk more about some than others, but just a real quick overview of all of my book of the month books. So starting in this top corner shelf, we have Perfect Little World by Kevin Wilson. This is from February 2017, and this is literary fiction, and it's almost a little bit sci-fi. So it's about this project called the Infinite Family Project, and basically all of these people live together and they all have babies, and they all live as one family. So nobody knows whose baby belongs to who, and they all just kind of raise all the kids together. And it's supposed to be this like utopian type society, but we know how that goes, right? Next we have The Damage by Caitlin Ware, and this is a thriller about, well, it's suspense. I would say that this is suspense more so than thriller, and it is about an SA case involving a young man, and I think that this is a very important topic to discuss because I feel like SA with males does not get discussed nearly as often, and it does have a detective element, which I usually don't like, but it really works with this, and I mean that cover. Beautiful. Next we have An Anonymous Girl by Greer Hendricks and Sarah Pekkanen. I've read all of the books that they've put out, but this is the only one that I gave 4 stars and decided to keep. And this is from December 2018. And this is about a college student who agrees to be part of this experiment where she's asked a bunch of questions and she's supposed to answer honestly all of these questions, and it's supposed to be like a psychology study, but she starts getting suspicious of some of the questions that are being asked and of the psychologist that is giving the questions, and I think that this one was really good. It's very psychological. It gets a little bit domestic, and it just really worked for me. Next we have Good Is Gone by Amy Gentry. This is the very first book of the month that I ever got, and it was 5 stars, and I got this in October of 2016, and this is about a family whose daughter was kidnapped in the middle of the night, and they looked for her for years and were never able to find her. And then a couple years later, she shows up at their doorstep, and she has a pretty interesting tale of where she's been. And so it's pretty similar to a true crime kidnapping that you've probably heard of, but I feel like it was pretty dark. It really went there, and I do need to reread this one because I remember it being dark, but now that I've read years and years of thrillers, maybe it's not as dark, but I love the yellow and the pink. I've read another book by Amy Gentry since that, and it was just not good, but this one is still, I think about it all the time, and I still remember the twist. Next we have Take My Hand by Dolan Perkins Valdez, and this is from May of 2022, and this is a historical fiction with a beautiful cover. And this is about Montgomery, Alabama in 1973, and it's about a nurse who works at a family planning clinic, and it deals a lot with Black women being sterilized against their will, and it talks about Tuskegee and a lot of things that are not talked about very much, and this book was so good, and it's a lot about accountability, redemption. It was just highly recommend. Next, we have Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez, and this is from May 2022, and this is about a woman who is a pretty high up there wealthy doctor, and she breaks down in a small town, and the man who helps her when she breaks down ends up being the mayor of the town, and they end up having a little bit of a flirtation, and he has a little baby goat, and this is a lot about family and sometimes the things that go along with having a large family, and some of the expectations when everybody in your family has done the same thing for years, and it just deals with a lot of really important topics. And I love Abby Jimenez writing. This was the first book I read by her, and I've since read 3 others, and I've enjoyed all of them. Next, we have a classic thriller, and it's The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. And if you've been living under a rock and don't know what this is about, it's about a psychiatrist who is treating this woman who allegedly killed her husband and has not spoken a word since that. This has one of the craziest twists I have seen in a book. And I remember what I was doing when I read this. I remember where I was sitting when I read the trope and the twist, and it was really, really good. Next, we have Miracle Creek by Angie Kim, and this is from April of 2019, and this is one of my favorite covers in books. I love this cover so much, but this is about a fictional Virginia town called Miracle Creek, and this Asian American family that has a immersion chamber, like a pressurized oxygen immersion chamber, and a little boy with autism dies while in the chamber, and it's about the court case related to that, and you're trying to figure out what happened, and it's so, so good. And then we have True Biz by Sarah Novick, and this is from April 2022, and I gave this one 4 stars. This is a very much slice of life story about students at a deaf boarding school, and it deals a lot with deaf prejudice, and there's a lot of information on American Sign Language and celebrating human connection and celebrating deafness, and it was just so good. And I don't usually highlight books, but there are multiple things in here that I've highlighted, and as somebody who did study American Sign Language for years, I still feel like I learned a lot. Okay, moving on to this next little cube area. So we have Kristen Hanna's The Four Winds. This was the book of the year in 2021. And this is a pretty chunker of a historical fiction about the Dust Bowl, the Great Depression, and protecting your family even in the midst of horrible, horrible poverty. I cried reading this book. I have a vlog reading this book if you're interested in checking that out. I buddy read this with my friend Jessie, but this was my first Kristen Hanna, and it's been my favorite so far, and I just really, really love this book so much. It is dark, it is sad, it is triggering, but it is so, so good. Next, we have a pretty underrated thriller, and that's Too Good to Be True by Carola Lovering. I haven't read anything else by Carola Lovering, but I don't know that I'm going to. I haven't really been intrigued by anything else, but this is about a woman who has OCD, and she starts dating this guy who starts taking advantage of it, and then we realize that there's a reason he's doing all of these things, and he's definitely not who he seems. Oh, and there's a bookmark in here. So here's one of the bookmarks that come with books. So this is a very unique type of domestic thriller, and I highly recommend it. Next, we have What Lies in the Woods by Kate Alice Marshall, and this is from January of 2023, so just a couple of months ago. And this is about girls who were in like middle school, and one of them gets stabbed in the woods, and they testify against the person that they said they saw do it, and that person gets put in jail. And now they're adults, and they're realizing that maybe they put the wrong person in jail. Next, we have The Collective by Allison Galen, and this is one of my favorite thrillers in this stack as well. This is very much a good for her female serial killer type of trope that includes a black market of female murderers, and it is so good, and it had a great twist as well. Next, we have Dark Places by Gillian Flynn. I am the unpopular opinion in that this is my favorite one, not Gone Girl. I really enjoy this book. It's dark, it's a slow burn, it is creepy, it's mysterious, and it feels very true crime-esque. It's about Libby, whose family was murdered in a horrible, horrible murder in their home, and so she is living with the guilt of the fact that her brother murdered her family. Or did he? Next, we have The Blinds by Adam Sternberg, and this is from August 2017, but I just read it in December of this past year, and this is about a fictional town that houses criminals. So if you are a criminal or have been sentenced to jail, but you're in this like witness protection program type of thing, they can sentence you to live out the rest of your life in the blinds, where you get a new identity. You live in this compound in the middle of Texas that nobody really knows about, and they basically are their own little society. And they have a sheriff, and there's no crime until one day somebody shows up dead. And so you have to figure out like, okay, nobody comes in, nobody goes out, so who's killing each other in this little compound? And this was really good. Next we have The Guest List by Lucy Foley. This is another one that you've probably heard about before. A bunch of people on an island for a wedding, somebody's murdered, and you don't know who is murdered, you just know that somebody is murdered, and so you're having to unweave the story. And I love that this is one of those things where everybody's somehow connected and you don't really realize it until the end. So definitely a classic, but definitely a good one. Next we have 56 Days by Catherine Ryan Howard. This was one of my favorite thrillers of last year. It's from July of 2021, and this is about people who start dating right before the pandemic, and then when the world shuts down, they decide to quarantine together so that they can continue their new relationship, and then one of them dies. And then we have The Family Game by Catherine Steadman, and this is about a group of people between Thanksgiving and Christmas, I believe, and you have a woman and her fiance, and she goes to meet his family, and they play some very sinister games, and it's definitely rich people behaving badly, but the stakes felt a lot higher than this typical story. And that cover, oh my gosh, so good. There's also a really cool like podcast element to this as well. Okay, now to put all of these back on here. Okay, next we're going to talk about some that are like the same author, so we'll talk about them together. So first we have Emily Henry, I have Beach Read, and People We Meet on Vacation. These are the two Book of the Month copies that I have. I also have Book Lovers, but it's not a Book of the Month copy. But these are good. This is a Friends to Lovers, and this is a kind of like rivals to lovers. They're not enemies, but they're rival authors. And then these are friends who go on vacation every year together, and they're both really, really good. And then next we have the first 5 Riley Sager books. And then I have The House on the Lake, but it's not the Book of the Month edition, but it's fine. We're not going to talk about that one. We can just pretend that one doesn't exist. These 5 are all really good. I gave them all 4 or 5 stars. We have Final Girls, The Last Time I Lied, Lock Every Door, Survive the Night, and Home Before Dark. Next, we have 2 Ruth Ware books. We have The Woman in Cabin 10. This is from August 2016. And then we have The It Girl, and this was just from this past year. And these are both slow burn mysteries, and I think I like this. I don't know which one I like better. They're very, very different. Very different. This is You're Stuck on a Cruise Ship, and this is Dark Academia. Next, we have both of Stacey Willingham's book, A Flicker in the Dark and All the Dangerous Things. I gave this one 4 stars. I gave this one 5 stars. This is about a woman in Louisiana whose husband was a serial killer, and father was a serial killer, and she is dealing with that while he's in jail. And this one is about a mother whose son went missing over a year ago, and she's still trying to figure out what happened to him. And these are pretty good basic thrillers. I feel like if you're new to the thriller genre, either of these would be good to start out with. I have 3 Simone St. James books. I have The Sundown Motel, The Broken Girls, and The Book of Cold Cases. The Book of Cold Cases is her newest. It's from May of 2022. The Broken Girls is from February 2018, and this is from January 2020. This one is my favorite. It's dark academia, murder, it's revenge. This one is a little bit more out there. And then this one is also a little more out there. So if you like that little bit of like, you're not sure if it's paranormal or not, you would definitely like Simone St. James books. And then last 2, we have Alice Feeney's Rock, Paper, Scissors. This is from September 2021. It's short, quick. It's my favorite Alice Feeney book. I don't love all of her books, and I didn't love her most recent one. So this is the only one that I've kept. But this is about a man who has face blindness and his wife, and they are in a snowy getaway and they're stuck there, and it's really good and it's really creepy and really atmospheric. And then last but not least, we have The House is on Fire by Rachel Beanland, and this is actually from just last month, so early 2023, and this is a historical fiction, but it's based on a true story of the Richmond theater that burnt down in the 1800s. So this is about a fictional theater that burned down around the same time in Richmond, Virginia. And let's talk about the two that I have on my shelves that I have not read. The first being Lone Woman by Victor LaValle. I believe this is like a horror book, but it's from March of 2023, and it says, a woman with a past, a mysterious trunk, a town on the edge of nowhere, and a bracing new vision of the American West, from the award-winning author of The Changeling, which I did enjoy. And then we have The Great Pretender by Susanna Cahalan, and it says, in 1973, a charismatic doctor convinced 8 healthy people to commit themselves to mental hospitals. They had to prove their sanity to be set free. So these are the only two that I have not read yet. So I do a pretty good job of keeping up with my book of the month books and reading them as they come in and not letting them sit for too long. So I'm very proud of that, and hopefully I can continue to do so. And that is my entire book of the month collection as it stands currently. I will hopefully do an updated one maybe in a year or so. And I think it'll be cool to have these videos to look back on later to see how my book of the month collection is growing and changing as I'm unhauling books and getting new ones and finding new favorites. Thank you so much for watching. Please hit that subscribe button. It really helps out my channel, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.